welcome to Magic Box Storytime with me, Lottie. Today, we are going to hear the first chapter of a brand new story. The Tale of the Artist in the Snow. Chapter 1, The Royal Request. Arcadia flung open the door to her studio and took a great gulp of outdoor air. It was a bitterly cold day, but because Arcadia was an artist, she didn't notice that kind of thing. She simply stood with her arms stretched outwards, eyes shut, breathing loudly and deeply. It looked very dramatic. It also looked like she was trying to hug an ostrich. She wasn't, though. Ostriches aren't keen on Lapland. She was just being artistic. After a few seconds, she was stopped in her dramatic and artistic exercise by a little voice. The voice said, "Are you all right?" It said that because the owner of the voice didn't know Arcadia. If they had, they would also have known that she spent a great deal of her life doing dramatic and artistic things, and she did them whether she was all right or not all right. Because of the voice, Arcadia opened her eyes, touched her forehead with the back of her hand and looked up at the sky. This was one of her favourite artistic poses. "All right?" she said. "I have no idea. I am an artist and all rightness is not one of the things I think about." "Oh, what do you think about then?" said the person with the little voice. Arcadia wrapped herself around the lamppost in front of her studio. "Oh," she said, "you know, light, the universe, the beauty of life, cinnamon rolls." "You think about cinnamon rolls?" said the little voice. Arcadia laughed lightly. "Of course," she said. "After all, I am a Laplander, aren't you?" She looked properly at the person with the little voice, and that was when she noticed the person wasn't alone. She was part of a small group of young people gathered in front of Arcadia's studio. Arcadia gasped dramatically. "Oh," she said. She stepped forward and stroked the cheek of the person with the little voice. "And who might you be?" she asked. The little voice person said, "I'm Iris, and these other people are my friends. We're not from Lapland. We've just come to have a bit of a look around." "Indeed," said Arcadia. She went from one young person to the next, stroking their hair and faces and saying things like, "Oh, the colour," and "what texture," and "oh, you ignite my soul." Iris and her friends let Arcadia be completely weird until finally she flopped down onto the pavement and sat cross-legged in front of them. "You magnificent creatures," she said. "Oh, I can almost breathe the colours. I want to sketch, draw, paint each and every one of you, but—" Here, she clasped her head between both hands. "I don't have time." "Why not?" said Iris. "You're an artist, aren't you? Doesn't that mean you can do art whenever you want?" Arcadia nodded crazily. "Usually, yes," she said. "But, my dear childlings, this very morning I received a call from Prince Lars, the long-legged of Lapland. Yes, him. Lapland's most exquisitely limbed royal prince person. And he said, 'Arcadia, for that is I, Arcadia, the artist.' He said, 'Arcadia, there is only one thing I want for Christmas. Just one. I care for nothing else, and you, Arcadia, are the only person who can give it to me. All I want for Christmas is a signed, framed portrait of Lapland's most famous and beloved reindeer. Reindeer.'" "Reindeer?" said Iris. "Yes," said Arcadia. "That's his name." "Sorry," said one of Iris's friends. "The reindeer's name is Reindeer?" Arcadia nodded. "Uh-huh," she said. "Perfect, isn't it?" She stood up and did a headstand, and because she was upside down, and because she was wearing very floaty, arty clothes, her blouse flopped down over her head to the ground so the young people could see all her grey thermal vest. This made them feel a bit embarrassed, but Arcadia didn't seem to mind. "Of course," she said, speaking to them the wrong way up. "I'm honoured, delighted, thrilled to be Prince Lars' chosen artist, and of course I could paint a splendid picture of mighty reindeer. There's just one little problem." She turned herself the right way up, leaned against the wall, and put a dramatic, or artistic, frown on her face. "No one," she said, "has seen reindeer for 5 years." "Goodness," said quite a few of the young people. "He is, of course, a mysterious, mythical creature," said Arcadia, and she waved her arms around to show how mysterious and mystical reindeer was. "But we know he's still out there because of the glorious poo droppings he leaves hither and thither. Look, I collected some. Have a sniff." She plunged a hand into one of the enormous pockets of her baggy, floaty trousers and brought out a little plastic box, which she opened and pushed towards Iris and her group. They all took a step back. Reindeer poo droppings send out a very unique smell. Then they peered into the box from a little way away. Inside they saw... Well, have you ever seen reindeer poo droppings? They look like large chocolate-covered raisins, but they aren't, so always check first. And if you ever find a pile of reindeer poo droppings, the kindest thing you can do is make a little sign and stick it in the ground next to them. On the sign, you should write very clearly, "These are not chocolate-covered raisins. Move along." Arcadia closed the box and put it back in her pocket. Then she let out an exciting wail and did her best desperate face. "I can't let Prince Lars the long-legged down," she howled. "I must find reindeer, but—" Here she stopped to check everyone was listening. "Alone? Me? How can I am Arcadia, sensitive artist. Colour is my air, texture is my food. I've no idea how to spot a reindeer track. Have you?" She pointed in a rather mad way at the young people in front of her. One of them, who was wearing a red woolly hat, said, "Maybe." Arcadia clasped her hands together with joy. "Really?" she said. "Are you sure?" The red woolly hat person nodded. "Yep," he said. "Think so. Learnt it at Fjord Camp last year." Arcadia squealed happily. "Ah, and the rest of you?" she asked. They all nodded. They'd all been to Fjord Camp last summer, you see, and as well as reindeer tracks, they could now also spot Norwegian lemmings, tundra wolves, and gnomes. "Then you must come with me," roared Arcadia. She turned to go inside to get her coat, but then stopped and looked back at her new friends. "Forgive me," she said. "That was very rude." She fell to her knees and began to sob. "I'm begging you," she wept. "Be my trackers. Help me to please Prince Lars. Let us find reindeer the reindeer together." Iris looked at her little group. Some of them were pulling faces and rolling their eyes because, to tell you the truth, they found Arcadia a bit much. But Iris smiled at them, and after a few seconds they all managed to smile and nod back at her, so she went and patted Arcadia's shoulder. "Okay," she said, "we can help. We haven't really got anything else on this afternoon." Arcadia thanked them very much. She did it dramatically and artistically, but I don't think I need to give you all the details. I'm sure you get the picture. Then she went inside and came back out wearing a very long, fake fur coat and carrying a duffel bag on her shoulder. "I have my bag of artistic materials," she said, "so let us depart. With our eyes sharp, our noses clear, and our ears open, I am sure we can find beloved reindeer." She asked them to show her their sharp eyes, clear noses, and open ears, and they did their best, although trying to show someone how open your ears are is really difficult. And that is the end of Chapter 1. I wonder how Arcadia and her team of trackers will get on in their search for Reindeer the Reindeer. Join me next time for Chapter 2. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to Magic Box Storytime with me, Lottie. Bye!